What's up, YouTube? Andy from the Sports Card Flip Game, here with the latest on how to get you plugged into all things sports cards. In today's video, we are introducing a new segment called Zooming into the Hobby. We're going to talk with some new folks entering into the sports card market to learn their perspectives. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my good friend, Peter Loudis. He is one of my good friends and got recently reintroduced to the hobby. So Pete, would love to hear from you about, who you are and why you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Andy. So, Andy and I have been friends for a few years now. And it's funny, a couple months ago, Andy, I don't know if you had gotten a pack or what, or did you pull a Zion, I think?
Yeah.
And we were just chatting about sports cars, and you're like, "Oh man, just used to collect," and like I've got some here. So back when I was a kid, when I was in my early teens, anywhere from like 9 to 15, I collected a bunch of sports cards, and from basketball to baseball. I'm from Houston originally, so I had a lot of fun cards that I'd collect and kind of follow those sports teams like the Rockets and Astros. And Andy and I were chatting a few months ago and just kind of got me back into it. So I'm excited to chat with you, man, and kind of, rekindle that fire because it's exciting kind of seeing what's happening and it's getting back kind of in the mainstream, which is fun.
Yeah. So we did that right before quarantine, just a couple of weeks. We met before lunch and I was able to give you some cards so you can kind of see what modern cards look like, because obviously a lot of your collection we collected in similar time frames in the late 80s, early 90s, in really the traditional junk wax era. But you and I both share an affinity for the Mavericks, for Texas sports, right? So tell me just a little bit about, like your perceptions of the sports card market today, right? As somebody who's been out and now is kind of seeing it again, what do you think about the cards, kind of how they look, how they're positioned in the market, that kind of thing?
Man, it's kind of exciting, honestly, because from the junk wax era and all those cards that I have, I'm looking at some of them now. Man, the fanciest things you would have would be maybe like a little bit of hologram, the signature name, some stuff like that. And then when we got lunch and I saw some of those unbelievable cards that you have that are like full on like color. Hologram, the jersey imprint in there, just all the new stuff that's totally mainstream now. Like you would see those on a very rare basis, but now just seeing how they're kind of in the market, a lot of people, I don't know if it's a lot of people have them or they're just more visible now, but it's exciting to see and all the different variations. When we were collecting, it was like Upper Deck and Tops. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to look at. And it's funny, I feel like such a newbie, but it's kind of exciting to learn again and be like, okay, well, tell me about, this specific brand and like what this level of that brand is and just kind of learning about everything. So I'm excited. I mean, you and I are both big Gary Vee fans and kind of seeing, that he's kind of brought it to the forefront again. And it's fun because you were, you just have kind of shown me all these great cards and I want to share some of that. But anyways, so that's kind of my perception of it. I'm excited. I think there's a lot of energy behind it. And I think that there's some really cool opportunity out there for people, as we've seen with those Zions and Lukas and things that are kind of blowing up. So, yeah.
Yeah. So what's, obviously quarantine kind of put a halt on, right, your exposure to it.
Yeah.
Knowing that you can't just go, I couldn't take you to the local card store, right? We couldn't go get you some packs very readily, that kind of a thing. But, kind of what are your thoughts on just, where you want to start or what to look for? Right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm glad I got you here. So like one of the things I was kind of curious about is, as a returning collector, where do I get started? What do I focus my attention on? I mean, I know like just by following your videos and Gary Vee and everything like that, just knowing who's hot, being a novice sports fan, like you hooked me up with one of these Lukas, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Like I'm a big Luka fan, I was a big Dirk fan. And, when Dirk kind of passed the torch and Luka's here now, like he's a phenom. Like it's pretty exciting to see that. So like, what do I do to get started? Like, do I focus on like the RC cards and kind of, have I missed the boat on that? Do I look for those up and coming rookies? Like, Panini, like, or, what are the packs that I need to look at? I know there's, retail cards that I can get on eBay, or do I try to buy and bust packs open from like Target or any retailers? Like, where do I start, man?
Yeah, so I think focusing first on a specific player or couple of players,
Okay.
right? So in basketball, certainly Luka is one that's easy. He's got a lot of cards in the market. He's got a lot of different versions now that he's in his second year, right? There's rookie cards, there's second year cards. You can still get some packs to pull some of his second year cards. Obviously, you're looking for Zion and Ja primarily in the second year or in this year's packs, but being able to pull a second year Luka is still pretty amazing.
Okay.
And I've been picking up on some of those on the cheap. I think in baseball, the fact that you're an Astros fan, Jordan Alvarez is right. Like
He's hot.
He's kind of.
Well, I mean,
yeah, he's kind of past his rookie year, right, coming up last year. But a lot of his rookie cards are actually in this year's Topps product because he was kind of the mid-year call-up. So it's a dude that, right, hits home runs and gets a lot of attention. So that's an easy one to focus on. And he gets a lot of hobby love. So I think finding some of those players that you like that also have some of that attention from a hobby perspective is a good idea. In terms of packs, right, like you're going to be able to bust some of those. I wouldn't necessarily expect that you're going to have tons and tons and tons of return unless if you can really hit on something. I was fortunate enough to kind of jump into it a little bit earlier. So like the Luka contenders cards and stuff like that, the Prism cards from last year, I was able to pull. You can't really do that as much. Zions are even still hard to pull. Next year, there's like LaMelo Ball. I don't know how high you're going to be on him, but I think focusing on a couple of those guys and really look at the market. So going to eBay and pulling a card or two and trying to find stuff on the cheap, that's really my recommendation to you, because if you look on Amazon, if you look on Mercari, Facebook Marketplace, a lot of that stuff's really overpriced. And I was looking at it last night on Facebook Marketplace, and they had like a Luka rookie card that's a $40 card. Somebody was selling for $100, and you're just like, come on, right? So you got to be wary of some of that stuff to not get ripped off. And knowing what that looks like can be challenging.
Yeah. So I mean, I've dabbled in eBay a little bit. Like, how do I know if I'm getting ripped off? Because I know there's like 5 different subsets of a Luka rookie card. How do I know that I'm looking at a $40 card that they've got overpriced at 100 versus a 150 card that, hey, might be worth 300?
Right. So going and actually toggling in the eBay settings, looking at completed or sold items, gives you an idea of historically what's already been sold on eBay of that same card. So if you were to type in, 2018, 2019 Panini NBA hoops number, I think it's 268, Luka Doncic. Right? And then you toggled on eBay, it'll show you first active listings, but then if you toggle to show completed or sold items, that gives you an idea, and it'll tell you this sold on April the 20th, this sold on April the 15th, April the 10th, and you start to see a little bit of a trend of how actual sold items have come out in the market. That gives you a better idea of if you're overpaying for stuff. And I hate to say it, one of those, kind of rookie mistakes, but it's something everybody just kind of has to learn, is sometimes you have to pay your dues and sort of overpay for a card or make that mistake. I certainly have done it and have cards that I paid, way too much for. But that's okay, right? Like some of that's just taking your knocks and learning how to be a savvy buyer. But right, like at the end of the day, if you're in it for collecting, you're in it for the love of the sport and being able to actually get back into it, then you can't really go wrong too much.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. So Man, I was super excited. I just wanted to mention this. Dude, you hooked me up with a Kenny Smith,
Yeah.
which, dude, Kenny Smith was the man back in the day. You know, the Rockets back in the early '90s were crushing it. Whenever the Bulls took a little break, so it was really cool to kind of get that. And I'm trying to look at some of these other old cards that I have in here, man. But
So I got a Kenny Smith card out of a break. It's a Panini Choice from last year. So that's a Jet autograph that I can't remember if it's numbered or not. So that's another.
Yeah, so number, it's got KS.
Okay, so that's a good one. So that actually means it's not numbered. So one of the things that is really important that a lot of the card companies have done over the last 15, 20 years is they've introduced scarcity into the market. So meaning they could have a card that's as low as 1 of 1, right? Or they can serial number them all the way up to 2020 typically. So that usually gets stamped in gold foil on the back or the front of the card, depending. That produces a level of scarcity for some of those color parallels, and that's definitely something you want to seek out. So that's a good idea to kind of out for as you get going into it, to find those scarcity, those lesser number parallels. That's an important piece.
Cool. That's awesome, man.
So any ideas on what you're to learn more about, what you want to get into, like what you're looking to buy, anything that's coming to mind downstream?
So I'm kind of excited, and I wanted to ask your opinion. So I'm a big Rangers fan and Astros fan. I know you're a big Rangers fan. We've been to some games. With the season kind of being on pause right now, is there anybody that you think, hey, this is a buy low situation? Some rookies out there that haven't had the opportunity to blow up. I mean, we're past opening day now. We'd be seeing some of those numbers where we're like, oh man, that guy's getting hot. Like, is there anybody that maybe isn't a Ranger that you think, hey, Pete, you should check this guy out, or just kind of focus on some of those teams that I like the Stros and the Rangers?
Dude, go get Jordan cards, right?
Yeah.
They're still cheap. You can buy a Topps 2020 Series 1 rookie card for, $5 or $10. And those examples, the expectation is that he's going to continue to get better and better. And I think you kind of focusing in on maybe on him, right? Like Kyle Tucker is another one that's had some playing time with the Stros. His rookie cards, I think, were last year. So that would be right. Like they've got a loaded farm system for the Rangers, right? Like Josh Jung is a guy who I've been trying to look at. He was the 8th pick in the draft last year. Dude is a baller and is going to be holding down the hot corner in Arlington for years to come, as early as my guess is next year. Nice. So we're going to see more and more of his cards start to hit the market. There is some Bowman first edition packs that just came out this last week where he's in. There's a longer story around Bowman, around what they're doing this year, because their Bowman Chrome product is supposed to come out traditionally kind of right when the season starts. Because of COVID-19, it got delayed. So they released this kind of shorter print first edition, and he's got some cards in there that I'm really stoked to get. And I think those would be some other ones to look at. And they're nothing crazy, right? Like a pack is $18 or $22, I think, but you can pull some really cool cards out of that. And it literally came out this week.
Okay, so 2 questions for you, Andy. So with the COVID-19 kind of, some of the shelter-in-place stuff is being lifted, but where should I look as kind of a newbie or a reborn newbie to get some of those cards?
Yeah. So the supply chain for traditionally, right, the printing, and a lot of the printing actually takes place here in Texas and in Dallas for all the Panini products, which is kind of cool. A lot of that's delayed. So you can still find packs at Walmart and Target, but they're traditionally going to be a little bit older, and the retail format doesn't necessarily have that big opportunity for some of those big hits like those autographs. So your local card stores, and there's a number of them in DFW, a lot of them are still shipping product. So you can buy online and they'll ship it to you. That's a better way to go. And that's kind of what I've been doing than buying like from eBay and stuff like that, because you never know quite what you're going to get. There are notorious stories of people like actually weighing packs to find the hits, the jersey cards, the thicker cards.
Wow.
So they'll weigh the actual box on a food scale and then, right, like sell you the ones that are not that have the hits.
Wow.
So it's kind of interesting how all that's kind of coming to the hobby. So there's a lot that you got to be aware of. I think finding that local card store that you can build up a reputation and go find product from is the way to go. And we're going to start to see, it's going to be tough because things are getting delayed months on months with kind of the distribution of products. So a lot of folks are going back to older stuff. It's jumping up in value. So we're seeing those 90s basketball cards, those 90s baseball cards. People are actually going and finding sealed boxes of those and ripping them, right? Like, so here's something that I picked up the other day. This is a Shaq insert from the 90s. This is a Jam City. I mean, I picked this up on eBay, but, right? Like, you get the idea that finding some of those, right, bring us back and are hot again. So cool. You probably have some gems in your collection. So I'm looking forward to seeing them.
Yeah, I gotta have you over once all this is done, or maybe just zoom into these cards with you, man. Because I've got some stuff that I'm like, man, I don't know what it is or what it's worth, and get you to take a look at some of these. So, dude, this has been helpful. Thanks, man.
Yeah, dude, happy to help out. Well, that's gonna do it for today's video. If you did like the content and you like Peter, give us a thumbs up. Let us know down in the comments below what, if you're new to the hobby, what your questions are, what you're looking for. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, would love to have you subscribe to the channel and turn on that bell icon so you can be notified of when we've got new content coming out next. So, Peter, you know how we do things here at the end, right? We're going to say, all right. We're going to say, so until next time, keep your flip game strong.